You're listening to Turi Ryder's She Said What podcast. I'm Turi, along with Marcy Persky. When you work in a newsroom, which I don't, one of the big pains at the end of the year is the end of the year. We'll explain.
I slammed my knee right into the desk.
Oh dear, let's not start out the new year injured.
It's not the new year yet.
That's right. We're recording this just at the very tail end of 2024.
Speaking of that, so we're both like media people.
Yeah.
And I remember the worst thing being assigned every year was a year-ender report, we called them.
Yeah?
They were for each separate, like the year in medicine, the year in entertainment, the year in politics.
They're still doing that.
But who cares about that? Who reads it? We lived it. Why do we need to why do I need to have to go over every crappy thing that happened in 2024 in order to move into 2025?
I absolutely hate to be the one to say the positive thing. You know how that kills me.
Yeah.
What if you get to remember something good, though?
I lived through it then. If it was good, I was there for it. Why would I forget it?
Oh.
If it's bad, why do I need to be reminded? It's not like we're repenting for anything.
Well,
I mean, is it to remind us to just not screw up? And the only thing I care about reading is all the people who died, because there's always at least a couple of them in there that I go, oh, I didn't know that he or she died.
And there's always one or two that they stick in there by mistake. We're like, no, we're not dead. And that's a mortification for the newsroom.
And that always makes me laugh.
See?
But other than that, I really don't care about the year in politics. I saw it on TV. I saw it on the Daily Show so that it wouldn't make me cry so hard. As far as, the year in the environment, it is 60 degrees up here when we should be buried in snow. So all I have to do is look out my window. I don't want to know about the year in science. It's right outside here.
Okay, so I have a few Pollyanna spins on this.
Okay, convince me.
I don't need to convince
Pollyanna.
you. I hate this. I hate being the bearer of good news. It just kills me.
I know it does.
That's really
why I'm bringing this
bums me out. First of all, when you work in the newsroom, the easiest thing in the world is to compile the greatest hits of whatever year just went by.
It's just boring.
Yeah, but you're already exhausted. You've made it to the end of the year. And if it was a year with a lot of those best ofs, worst of things, then you're wiped. You're just wiped. And all you really want to do is go to somebody's Christmas party and have too much to eat or too much to drink and watch a bunch of crappy TV and wait for the calendar to reset. And so,
unless you're us and all you want to do is go to bed,
it keeps a lot of really bored people from having to work too hard before the calendar resets and they're entitled to their next 3 weeks of vacation.
So
That's
you're
what
saying
I think.
It's the journalist's fault.
It's the editors and the journalists' fault. I fell for one of those year-enders that turned out not even to be a basic list. I think it's the New York Times that got lazy with the podcasts. We're bringing you the very best of our interviews last year, and I swear they just sucker punched me by promising me some Joni Mitchell I assumed would be an interview. And all it was two of the reporters talking about what fanboy and fangirl they are of Joni Mitchell. And I was like, really? 30 minutes?
You know what? Okay. I have something to say.
Yeah.
And then I'll never say it again.
Okay.
But this is in the line of people believing everything that they read.
Yes.
Even if they only know how to read a few words.
Uh-huh.
There's a problem right now in Williams, Arizona.
Where you live, above, the mountain
Where
above.
Exactly. And somebody put on the internet that if you need any AstroTurf to go to the high school and just dig it up from their football field.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And guess what? The police department had to put out a release saying that this is not true. And if we catch you out there digging up any part of our football field, you will go to jail. And by the way, will you please bring back the pieces that are missing?
Actually, what that story is what we call is going to be my worst pun of 2024. What do we call a story that's not time sensitive in the news business? Evergreen, just like AstroTurf.
Yes, exactly. Oh,
Well,
can you believe that though?
yeah,
That people
yeah,
would be that
actually,
stupid to believe something like that?
well, I fell for the Best of Joni Mitchell podcast, so I'm not throwing stones.
It's a football field. It's a high school football field. It's a little teeny tiny high school that has not a lot of money, but they're welcoming you to come and take their turf.
Well, if they
Just like,
wrote it right, we're getting new AstroTurf that's a higher tech and will be, better for the players' knees and elbows. And because
yeah.
if only they'd written it right. Yeah,
It was just some moron that said, "Hey, go take the free AstroTurf." That's all it really was.
they better be
And
careful. Next month it's going to be, we're replacing the police cars here in Williams, and if you
yeah, exactly. It's just it blows my mind. Like just the, I guess that would be my year under. The stupidity of humanity leaves me stunned, and hopefully they're smarter in 25 or 2025.
yeah, let's hope. If they collect something that is different,
Yes,
these
the odd stories and the Darwin. We used to call them the Darwin
the
Roundup.
Darwin Awards, yeah.
Yeah, the
So
people that just like got killed because they kind of deserved it.
nature weeding out the stupid, we used to call
Yeah.
that. Yes. What I do like at the end of the year is the follow-up stories. Like, remember at the beginning of the year we told you about this. Did you ever wonder how that turned out? Those stories are
Well,
useful. Yeah. Well, or sometimes they're completely disheartening. Remember that woman who couldn't get the cancer treatment because her insurance company said it was too expensive?
here she is in our list of 50 people who died.
There's just so much of that now on social media, and it's every day. It's, happy heavenly birthday. And I think there should be,
Yeah.
this is going to sound terrible. I'm sure you miss your family member, even if that person was 104 years old. But I think it would make the rest of us, it would make our lives much easier if we could have some kind of cutoff and just say, if the person's over 100, just an announcement is fine. We don't
Wha-
need a retrospective of their entire 100 years on this planet. And I realize this is going to make me very unpopular with our
I
three
agree with you, though.
three
I hate
podcast
those.
listeners are going to be very upset about this. But I just went to one of those funerals. There's always somebody who gets up and tells some complete weird whopper. Like the rabbi at this funeral talked about her children, her grandchildren, and her adopted great grandchildren. And I'm like, what adopted great grandchildren? Did, did he miss out on all of those pregnancies that resulted in all of those great grandchildren? There's not a one of them. And he named these three children who I happen to know perfectly well are blood relatives of the deceased. It was very odd. There's always one like that. My mother and my father were married for, 60 something years, despite the fact that my grandmother, of blessed memory, did everything she possibly could do to make sure that my mother and my father did not get married, including while my mother was going overseas to volunteer to teach, ripping the engagement ring off my mother's hand
Oh my God.
as the ship was leaving, raced down the ramp, and then proceeded to tell my father that my mother had met somebody else while she was teaching overseas.
Nice.
So yeah, and somehow at my grandmother's funeral, my mother got up there and said, and she picked out my wonderful husband for me. And I'm thinking the only way that my grandmother would have picked out my father would have been to line him up before a firing squad. And all the
You
kids,
know what? That must have been a thing back then because my grandma hated my mom. And she, and the really funny thing is, she told my dad that if he married my mom, that he would be cut out of the will, and she would never speak to him again.
Mhm,
And when she became very,
demented,
when she became demented, guess who she went to live with?
the evil spouse, of course.
Yeah, my parents
Of
took
course.
her in. She got mad because they gave her the room right off the kitchen, which had its own bathroom. And she said it was the maid's room.
My mother stood up and made this little speech about how her mother had picked out this wonderful husband, and each grandchild got immediately black and blue from being elbowed in the ribs by the grandchild
Yeah.
next to him or to her. And then afterwards, I didn't know if I should mention this to my grieving mother,
Yeah.
but I did say, Mom, I'm a little surprised that you got up and said that Grandma picked out Dad for you to marry, knowing how she threatened to like sit in mourning if you got married. And my mother said, "Oh, did I say that?
Yeah.
I don't know what came over me." So
Family lore.
something
But yes, the
weird.
bottom line is
Yes.
I'm sick of all the heavenly birthdays as well. I'm just stuff that people post, and it was exactly 3 days ago where I was scrolling through my feed because I was bored, and I said, "God, I can't do this anymore. I need to like take a Facebook time out because the few people that I really care about on my feed, I talk to them already. I know everything."
If you take a break and you disappear, someone will write you as like one of the great deaths of 2025, and then we'll all have to read about your freaking heavenly birthday for the rest of
Or
time.
they'll just hack in and steal all my crap, replace it with Pornhub and what's
Oh,
the other? OnlyFans.
I have a word to say about the porn sites. Just a word.
Wait, I have a question before you give me your word.
Yes.
Have you looked at them?
Well, this is the point. So I decided I was spending too much money on streaming sites, and the one of the young folk, as young folk do, has a video streaming site where you can watch pirated everything. You just have to be very patient because routinely it stops and you have to change servers, and then sometimes if it's
Yeah.
a foreign thing, the subtitles go away and they only show up in Dutch or Chinese. But one of the things that it does when it bails out is it offers you the opportunity to either do one of two things, to either make millions of dollars on some fabulous money-making scheme or to watch porn. And the porn shows up. The last bootleg site that went down would just actually start showing you porn, whether you wanted it or not. Just like literally active right on your big screen in the middle of whatever movie you were watching. All of a sudden there it is, right? And you would exit out and it would show up again. Big guys and big girls doing it hot and heavy, and you're Xing with your little zapper on your TV thing. It comes back. Now I have a different site, and instead it interrupts me to say, "Hi, I'm Jennifer. What's up?" That wants to WhatsApp with me, and this is the part where I'm completely confused. It's really cool, illustrated. I don't know what would happen if I clicked on it, but it's like racy cartoon women showing up on my screen, and I can't decide if that's better or worse. Like if I were into porn, would I be disappointed? It's really arty. It's really cool. I actually am curious about who's drawing this stuff, but they'll have like a whole series of, you know what manga is? That's that Japanese anime kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right? So it'll show up with big booty girls, and they're all drawn in little costumes, and I don't know what to make of it at all. It's completely confused me. I'm watching my show, and now I get a choice of 6. There's one in a space rocket, like astronaut costume. Somehow astronauts in this world wear G-strings. I'm afraid even if I look at them for more than a second, even though they're not actually real people and they're not actually naked, I worry they'll start charging me for it.
I wouldn't even know how to access those kind of things that you're talking about. I'm way too paranoid to even like look at anything bootleg because I always feel like somebody's watching me. You know, I think Putin or that goofy North Korean guy or the ghost of J. Edgar Hoover. I don't know why they would come after me up in Williams, Arizona.
Hey, I know why. I hear you
Steal
got
my
one in some
AstroTurf.
AstroTurf. Thanks for listening to the Turi Writers She Said What podcast. Since you've made it to the end, you might want to know that my book, She Said What? A Life on the Air, is not only available in print, but now also in complete audiobook form, narrated by me and available on Audible.